Sterline Joseph was found lying in her driveway. Blood covered her face and neck. Her body didn't move. Her eyes were closed forever. It was June 24, 2023, a warm summer morning in Vincennes, Indiana. The sky was blue. Her two sons stood nearby, shaking. They had just watched their grandfather stab their mother to death. The police came fast. Neighbors pointed to the man still standing calmly near her body. He was holding a gold-handled kitchen knife. His name was Fritzner Antoine. He was 63 years old. He did not cry. He did not run. He told the officers she had disrespected him too many times. He said he only wanted to punish her. But the knife was already in his hand. And now his daughter was dead. People asked why. Why would a father kill his own child? But this was not something that happened in one moment. This was something that built up over years, slow, quiet, and heavy. This was not a surprise to the people who knew them. This was a sad ending that had been coming for a long time. Before we enter into today's story, I need you to do something for me. Look at your phone. See that little red subscribe button? Here's the thing. The algorithm only shows these stories to people who engage. And every case I cover, every victim I fight for, every family I give a voice to, it all depends on you hitting that button. Because the dead can't speak for themselves. But we can speak for them. So subscribe now. Turn on notifications. Because what you're about to hear will change how you see love, and will make you question why a 64-year-old dad would kill his own daughter because she asked him to watch over her kids. Sterline Joesph was a woman who didn't wait for life to hand her anything. She made her own path, step by step. Born to Haitian parents, she watched her mother fight hard to raise her family. There were no luxuries. No safety nets. Just long hours, tight budgets, and quiet prayers. From that struggle, Sterline learned something early. If she wanted a different life, she'd have to build it with her own hands. She didn't just dream. She worked. She studied hard and earned a college degree from Strayer University. She landed a strong HR job at Fitaba, a company known for structure and discipline. But Sterline wasn't finished. She started her own natural hair and skincare business. She built it from scratch, creating products that reflected her pride in black beauty. She traveled, promoted, and sold. Later, she added real estate to her plate, closing deals in multiple states. She branded herself as a woman of vision and strength. She wasn't just a business owner, she was a provider, a mother, a wife, and a fighter. Every post she made showed her balancing it all. Kids in the back seat, laptop open, phone pressed to her ear, and a smile on her face. Her husband, Joseph, was a Florida-based realtor who shared her hustle and her faith. They married in 2012. That same year, their first son was born. 2 years later, another son followed. Their lives looked picture-perfect. Vacations, matching family shirts, birthday parties, and love. From the outside, they were the dream. But dreams have weight. And Sterline carried more than her share. She was the backbone, the planner, the leader. She believed that if she stayed in motion, her children would never feel what she felt as a child, lack. That belief shaped everything she did. Then came Fritzner Antoine. He was her father. A man built by old rules and quiet pride. In Haiti, he had been raised to believe that fathers were kings in their homes. They provided, they protected, and they were respected. Children listened. Wives followed. And old age came with comfort and honor. You didn't argue with your father. You didn't tell him what to do. When Sterline brought him from Haiti to live with her in Vincennes, Indiana, in 2022, it was supposed to be a gift, a way of saying thank you. She covered the expenses. She gave him a room. She fed him, clothed him, and brought him into her American success story. But what she saw as love, he saw as something else. From the moment Fritzner entered her home, the world felt upside down to him. The home wasn't his. The rules weren't his. The food, the schedules, even the TV volume, everything was controlled by his daughter. And worst of all, he didn't feel like a guest. He felt like a servant. Sterline and Heel traveled often, leaving the boys in his care. He didn't expect that. He hadn't come to America to raise children again. He had come to rest. But instead, he found himself packing school lunches, helping with homework, and breaking up arguments. It was work, hard work, and no one seemed to notice. The boys were loud, busy, and growing. They had questions. They had needs. They were not quiet toddlers. They were full of energy and emotion. Fritzner tried to manage. He tried to adjust. But in his heart, he was building resentment. In his eyes, Sterline was no longer a grateful daughter. She was a bossy woman who used him when it suited her. And when he tried to speak up, she brushed it off. To her, it wasn't personal. She thought she was helping him stay active, involved, needed. She thought he would see her success as his own. But he didn't. He saw her independence as defiance. Her strength felt like disrespect. 2 lives. 2 stories. 2 worlds under one roof. One built on hustle and survival. One shaped by pride and tradition. And between them, no middle ground. Only silence. Only cold looks, old wounds, and days growing darker. Sterline Joesph didn't just chase success, she chased freedom. Freedom from struggle. Freedom from depending on others. Freedom from the quiet, buried pain she had watched her mother endure. Her childhood in a Haitian household was built on sacrifice. Her mother worked long hours, sometimes more than one job, just to keep the lights on and food on the table. There was no space for dreams, only duty. There was no time for softness, only survival. Sterline watched. And she remembered. As a child, she made herself a promise. She would not repeat the same life. She would not live in lack. She would not raise her children in shadows. She would rise. And she did. From the moment she stepped onto American soil, she was in motion. Every decision she made was focused. She enrolled in Strayer University and earned her degree. She worked her way into human resources, a field that offered structure, income, and upward movement. She saved. She built. Then she started her own beauty line, drawing from her culture, her identity, and her belief that Black women deserved better. She wasn't just creating products. She was creating pride. And she kept going. Real estate became her next move. She closed deals, built contacts, promoted herself online. She created a business not just for profit, but for proof. Proof that a Haitian woman could beat the odds. Proof that she was not her mother's daughter in suffering, only in strength. But the American dream isn't just about what you take. It's about what you give back. And for Sterline, success wasn't complete until her family could benefit too. In 2022, she brought her father, Fritzner Antoine, from Haiti to live with her in Vincennes, Indiana. It was not just a reunion, it was a reward, a gesture of love, of honor, of thanks. She believed she was offering him peace, comfort, a second life in a country with more. But what felt like a gift to her, felt like a disruption to him. Fritzner came from a generation of Haitian men who believed deeply in hierarchy. The father was the center of the family. His word was final. His presence was sacred. He had raised children. He had earned his rest. He did not expect to be ruled over in his daughter's house. He did not expect to feel invisible. Or worse, obligated. He had lived a life rooted in order. In his world, roles were clear. Elders were honored. Women, no matter how successful, did not correct or command men of his age. But in America, and in Sterline's home, those rules no longer applied. And this is where the quiet fracture began. Their dreams didn't match. Their traditions clashed. Her independence felt threatening. His pride felt heavy. Neither of them said the words out loud, but the tension lived in every day. She worked. He watched. She left. He stayed. She expected. He resented. This was not just a family issue. This was a cultural collision. One woman chasing the American dream. One man holding tightly to the world he knew. And in the middle of it, 2 boys, living in a house full of pressure and quiet storms. Experts in immigrant families often speak of this clash, the unspoken gap between generations. The children of immigrants become fast, Americanized, ambitious. But their parents carry old traditions, old griefs, and old expectations. The weight between them can grow too heavy. In Sterline's case, that weight would soon become deadly. In the beginning, it was quiet. Fritzner Antoine moved into his daughter's home in Vincennes with hope that he could finally rest. He had lived a long life. He had done his work. Now, in America, he expected peace. Instead, he stepped into a home that never stopped moving. Sterline and her husband, Heel, were always busy. They traveled often, business in Florida, real estate deals in other cities. Their days were filled with meetings, calls, and deadlines. And every time they left town, they left the boys with him. Fritzner was not prepared for that. He was 62 years old. He didn't know the school schedule. He didn't understand American homework. He wasn't used to modern parenting. But still, he folded their clothes. He packed their lunches. He reminded them to brush their teeth, pick up their socks, and do their reading. He wasn't just watching them, he was raising them again. No one said it directly. But slowly, he became the full-time caregiver. Day after day, the tasks repeated. Wake the boys. Feed the boys. Take the boys to their activities. Help with school. Clean up after them. Repeat. The boys were not babies. They were growing, loud, active, always moving. They played rough. They argued. They asked questions. They wanted snacks and games and attention. Fritzner tried to keep up, but the weight grew heavy. He was tired. He felt unseen. And worst of all, he felt unappreciated. He told himself it was temporary, that it was just until they returned. But every weekend brought another trip. Another text. Another goodbye. No warning. No plan. Just watch the boys. He started to feel like a servant. Not a guest. Not a father. Not a man with worth. Just someone there to fill in the gaps. The arguments began slowly. First about lights being left on. Then about the boys' behavior. Then about how the food was cooked. Fritzner would raise his voice. Sterline would roll her eyes. Small things became big things. And the air inside the house changed. No one said it aloud, but everyone felt it. The boys noticed first. They saw the sharp looks exchanged between their mother and grandfather. They heard the short answers. The closed doors. The tension grew thick, too thick to ignore. And it didn't go away. It stayed there, even during dinner. Even on quiet afternoons. Sterline believed she was doing enough, providing a home, food, and opportunity. She didn't see why he was angry. She didn't see his pain. To her, this was what family did, helped each other. But to Fritzner, it felt like disrespect. He wasn't being helped. He was being used. Each day added to the pile. A small insult here. A loud child there. A missed thank you. A forgotten chore. It built up like steam under a lid. And no one knew it, but the pressure was almost ready to explode. The morning of June 24, 2023, began like many others. The sun was already peeking through the windows. The house on Audubon Drive in Vincennes, Indiana, was quiet, but the quiet didn't feel peaceful. It felt tense, heavy, as if the walls themselves were tired of holding in the silence. The boys were getting ready, laughing, wrestling, rushing to find socks and cereal. They had no idea this would be the last morning they'd ever spend with their mother. Sterline moved through the kitchen quickly. She had plans. Another trip. Another property. Another business call with her husband. She didn't stop to ask questions. She didn't explain. She just told her father she needed him to watch the boys. There was no eye contact. No discussion. Just expectation. Fritzner didn't answer. He stood still in the kitchen, his hands resting on the edge of the counter. The sound of the boys filled the room, feet running, voices rising, doors closing. But Fritzner didn't move. On the counter was a knife. Not a tool for cooking. Not a weapon of war. Just a decorative piece with a gold handle, meant for serving, not for harm. But his fingers wrapped around it anyway. He held it tight. He said nothing. He waited. Sterline turned her back. Then it happened. Without warning, Fritzner lunged forward. The knife flashed. It struck her head, her neck, her face. And again. And again. She screamed. She fought. But it was too late. He didn't stop. He didn't speak. He just kept stabbing. The boys heard everything. The sound of her voice. The struggle. The blood hitting the floor. They ran crying. They begged for help. By the time police arrived, it was already over. Sterline Joesph was found lying in her own driveway. Her blood had poured across the concrete. The knife was still in her father's hand. He stood calmly nearby, his clothes stained red. He didn't try to run. He didn't shed a tear. When officers told him he was being arrested for murder, he said, "Yes, I agree." There was no apology, no explanation that could undo what he had done. This didn't happen in a dark alley. It didn't happen in a stranger's home. It happened in broad daylight, outside the place where she raised her children. The home she had built. The one she had filled with ambition, hard work, and love. And now it was a crime scene. Police reports confirmed the location: Audubon Drive, Vincennes. The documents described her wounds in detail. They noted the knife's shape, the children's screams, the blood trail that stretched from the kitchen to the concrete. It was not an accident. It was not a snap decision. It was a breaking point, a moment that had been building for years. And it ended with a mother's body on the ground, and two boys, frozen in shock, watching their world collapse. When officers arrived at the home on Audubon Drive, they were met with a scene of silence and blood. Sterline Joseph's body lay still in the driveway, covered in deep wounds to her face, neck, and head. Nearby stood Fritzner Antoine, her father, the man she had brought to America, the man she had trusted. He held the gold-handled knife in one hand, stained in red. He made no move to flee, no effort to hide what had happened. Police secured the scene. Yellow tape was stretched across the driveway. Neighbors watched from a distance, whispering in disbelief. The two young boys, Sterline's sons, stood with officers, their faces pale and blank. They had seen everything. Inside the patrol car, Fritzner gave a full confession. According to court documents from Knox County, he told officers in plain words what happened. He admitted that his daughter had asked him to watch the boys again that morning. He said he felt tired, angry, and disrespected. He said she had humiliated him, made demands without asking, and treated him like he was just the help. He claimed he didn't plan to kill her. He said he only meant to discipline her, to flog her. But the knife was already in his hand. And when she turned away, he used it. There was no emotion in his voice. No trembling. No tears. He described the stabbing in detail, explaining how he struck her multiple times while she screamed. He spoke clearly, calmly. Officers said he showed no remorse. When they informed him he was being charged with murder, he simply nodded and replied, "Yes, I agree." The knife was collected as evidence. A decorative kitchen knife with a curved gold handle and a sharpened steel edge. It wasn't designed for violence, but in Fritzner's hands, it became a weapon of rage. At the Knox County Jail, he appeared before a judge for his first hearing. Through a translator on Zoom, he confirmed he was a Haitian citizen from Port-au-Prince and requested that the court notify a consular officer. He showed no reaction to the charges. No emotion for the life he had taken. No concern for the grandchildren now left without a mother. He was denied bond and ordered held in custody. The documents from that day tell the story in short, clinical sentences. But the truth was clear to everyone in the courtroom. A father had killed his own daughter, not in a moment of confusion, but in a moment of entitlement and silence that had been growing for far too long. This was not a case of mental illness. Not a random act of violence. This was bitterness, fully grown. After the sirens faded and the police took Fritzner Antoine away, what remained was silence. A deep, empty kind of silence. The house on Audubon Drive, once full of sound, phones ringing, kids laughing, deals being closed, was now still. Joseph, Sterline's husband, arrived in shock. His wife was gone. His partner, his co-parent, the woman he built a life and business with, dead. Murdered by her own father. And worse, their sons had witnessed it. They had seen everything. They had heard her scream. They had seen her fall. They had watched blood spill and life disappear. Friends flew in from different states. Family gathered. There were no answers, only tears, silence, and pain. On July 8, 2023, Sterline Joesph was laid to rest in Florida. Her funeral was filled with people who knew her as a leader, a mother, a friend, a fighter. Her clients came. Her business partners came. Her classmates. Her mentors. Her cousins. Her siblings. Her mother sat in the front row, sobbing quietly. Her sons sat beside their father, confused and still. Heel held them close, but the weight was unbearable. There were no words that could explain what had happened. No sermon that could make it make sense. At the sentencing hearing in March 2025, Knox County Prosecutor Dirk Carnahan stood in front of the court and said something that everyone already knew: 60 years or 600 years doesn't change their lives. His voice was steady, but heavy. There was no victory in the sentence. No joy in the justice. Because justice couldn't bring her back. Justice couldn't comfort two boys at night. Justice couldn't erase the memory of their mother's final cries. Mental health experts later weighed in. One psychologist explained that children who witness the violent death of a parent carry that trauma for life. It changes how they trust, how they love, how they see the world. These boys weren't toddlers. They were old enough to remember details: how loud the screaming was, what their grandfather looked like when he held the knife, how the blood spread. They would never forget it. They would grow up with questions no child should have to ask. They would live in a home with one parent missing, one grandparent in prison, and a memory that couldn't be replaced. Everyone else returned to their lives. But for this family, nothing was ever the same again. On March 31, 2025, the courtroom was quiet as Fritzner Antoine stood before Judge Monica Gilmore in Knox County. 2 years had passed since the morning he killed his daughter. 2 years of grief, confusion, and silence. Now there would be no trial, no cross-examinations, no drawn-out testimonies. Fritzner pleaded guilty. He admitted what he had done, again, this time in front of the court. The judge listened carefully. She looked at the man who had once been brought to America as a gesture of love. And now, she would sentence him for destroying the one who brought him here. Judge Gilmore gave him the maximum, 60 years in prison. It was the highest sentence allowed under the law. But it didn't feel like enough. No one in that courtroom believed 60 years could fix what had been broken. There were no cheers. No sighs of relief. Just a heavy silence that sat on the shoulders of everyone in the room. Court officials later stated what many felt: this sentence doesn't heal the family. It can't. It can't erase what the boys saw. It can't bring back the woman who worked so hard. It can't rebuild a family that was torn apart from the inside. Fritzner Antoine showed no emotion. No tears. No regret. He accepted the sentence as quietly as he had accepted his arrest. Now he would spend the rest of his life in a prison cell. But even that would never be enough to bring closure to those left behind. Photos of Sterline Joesph fill the screen: her graduation cap, her holding her newborn sons, standing proudly in front of a sold home, her beauty products neatly displayed on a table. These were the moments that told the story of a woman who never stopped climbing. A daughter of immigrants who became a business owner, a wife, a mother, and a provider. But behind every achievement was a pressure many never saw. Experts say that in immigrant families, success often comes with invisible strings. Children grow up balancing two worlds, one of ambition and one of tradition. They chase the dream their parents sacrificed everything for. But sometimes, when they reach it, the very people they wanted to honor feel left behind. In homes like Sterline's, roles can become tangled. The daughter becomes the leader. The parent becomes the dependent. And when old beliefs clash with new realities, the house becomes a battlefield. Fritzner believed his title, feather, was enough. That age alone earned him obedience and respect. That his daughter's independence was defiance. Sterline believed her sacrifices should speak for themselves. That her success meant she had earned support without question. But no one stepped back. No one softened. No one said what they needed out loud. And pride turned deadly. This wasn't just about family. It was about ego. About caregiving without choice. About unspoken expectations. About roles that changed, but hearts that didn't. And in the space between tradition and change, a mother lost her life. The home on Audubon Drive now sits quiet. Inside, the toys are still there. The boys' shoes still by the door. Their rooms untouched, beds neatly made, drawings pinned to the walls, schoolbooks left open on desks. But the laughter is gone. The woman who once filled the house with energy and ambition is no longer there. Sterline Joesph was more than a victim. She was a builder. A mother who never gave up. A wife, a leader, a fighter. She created opportunity not just for herself, but for the family she loved. Her life was defined by movement, progress, and purpose. But expectations can weigh more than love. In trying to carry her family forward, Sterline met resistance she didn't expect, from the very person she tried to uplift. And in the absence of understanding, in the presence of unchecked pride and silence, something irreversible happened. This story is not just about one tragedy. It's about what happens when families stop listening, when caregiving becomes a burden, when mental health is ignored, when cultural pride blocks emotional truth, and when men, feeling unseen or challenged, turn that pain outward, toward women they once protected. Let this story be a reason to talk about generational trauma, about elder care in immigrant homes, about the expectations we place on daughters, and the anger we allow to fester in silence. Let it be a reminder that pride can kill, but listening might save a life.